Today we're talking about how to get from an outline to a pink team draft relatively. We've got some anecdotal metrics. Recently, we helped some customers with this initial process of we have an RFP, it just dropped, and now we need to get to that pink team draft so that we can share it with our teammates. We can get feedback from our technical SMEs, right? Maybe our service delivery folks or our teaming partners, which is fairly common in our community. And so that crunch time between RFP drops and that first initial draft that you can provide to your collective team is incredibly important. The further you can crunch down that time, the faster you can get more eyes and more hands into the work to get the work done well and quickly. So, as you'll see here, I've picked out a new kind of interesting RFP to look at. It's called a study to determine natural language processing capabilities for the NCCF Open Knowledge Match. Broad agency announcement came out of NOAA, dropped yesterday. So if you are interested in this work, it's out on sam.gov. I'm not particularly interested in pitching to it, so go for it. So I went through the initial steps that we talked about at the last session, which is I came in, I uploaded the solicitation and created a compliance matrix. Fairly decent number of sections for this compliance matrix. A fairly robust broad agency announcement is 52 pages, so it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting, intricate topic. So uploaded the document to get the compliance matrix shredded out so I could get those specific items. And then I went in and built out an initial outline. So I took specifically what the government asked for in the RFP, or the BAA, the Broad Agency Announcement in this case, looked at the specific requirements. So there's a technical proposal, right? The volume's there. And then there are specific sections that they specified. Okay, so these items here: uncertainty, study phases, resource discovery and acclimation, storytelling, and feature dependencies. These were all specified sections within the technical volume. 3 volumes for this BAA: it's a technical, past performance, and a price proposal, right? And so I started off with just the technical and built out this initial outline that we can for the technical. And then from there, I use this new feature, which is the compliance matrix lacing. So after you build a compliance matrix, so this is a prerequisite step, you have to upload the RFP, in this case, the BAA, to have the compliance matrix shred it. And then once that's shredded, those compliance matrix items are available here in the outline view. And what that enables you to do, shred the RFP manually. No, Robert, I shredded that automatically. So, yeah, so I uploaded the RFP into the compliance matrix generator, just added this solicitation document here. It is right there. And it shredded it. It took about 2 or 3 minutes for it to shred it out. So this was the compliance matrix that it shredded out. Here's the full stack of all the shalls, wills, must, may, right? And for the ones that I've already laced in, it shows you where in that outline I have placed in the requirements, okay? So what this enables me to do is when I'm in this initial outline stage, I can select shall statements that are relevant to my outlining task, and I can directly drop them into my outline without having to do a manual cross-reference, which is kind of straightforward and standard, right? So let's pick some decent items in here. I'm going to skip that one. Solution leverage APIs that use an open API spec. Okay. Prospective, certain standards, financial resources. I don't think that's, we'll address that in the price proposal. Uncertainty scoring. Okay, this one is interesting, right? The system should facilitate uncertainty scoring. I'm going to put that in uncertainty. Boom. So I selected which section I want it to go into, and I can select multiple. So describe both narratively and visually in terms. I'm going to put that in. This one I like. I'm going to put this one in the top level. Put that in the actual top level technical. So once I selected where I want in the outline for it to go, I can just hit this add section button and it'll drop directly into my outline. I can do it again. So let's drop that in. And it drops into exactly where I want it in the proposal outline. Okay. And so then when I go to generate my draft document, right, just like we've all seen, hit create document, go to the documents flow, create the proposal here. Here's my fairly comprehensive outline. I also, you'll note, I adjusted some of the content lengths for these. So I adjusted some of content lengths, a little bit more content in some sections and a little less content in others. Right, again, something you can do. For this one, I think there's a 10-page limit, so I don't want to dial up that content very much. I kind of want to keep it punchy. But let's see. Documents, we'll go through this workflow. So technical proposal, we'll make this a there's my comprehensive outline that I built out. And I started doing this 30 minutes ago. So this is not something like some cake I baked over the last several hours. I, no kidding, started this after lunch at 12:30. Okay. In fact, I found this opportunity, I think, at 12:20, and then I started building out the outline about 10 minutes later. So we're moving pretty quickly through this initial. Obviously, that's not how you want to capture work. But when it comes to actually proposing it, you have the RFP, you know you've already validated the opportunity, you know you're going to go after it. You want to get through this initial stage as fast as possible, as long as it maintains sort of your specific quality level. So here, I'm going to grab the overview from the statement of work, drop that into chat here. Now, in sort of past experiences and what some of our customers previously did is in that, and why we built in that compliance matrix crosswalk capability is to build a really good, robust outline. It would take them a little while, but they would do the initial outline generation, and then they would create subsections within the major headers for specific, statement of work tasks or specific technical tasks. And they would lay in those subtasks underneath the primary task, just like you would do with a traditional annotated outline. We built in that, and you can still do that if that's the way you want to go about your drafting and solutioning. However, if you want to go from their shall statements, right? If it's in the statement of work, it's going to be stated in a shall statement. It means that our compliance matrix generator is going to pull those items out, and you can very easily lace those shall statements, those statement of work or PWS or SUE statements into your outline. So when you go into your initial generation, those of you who are watching real time, I just took the background paragraph from this broad agency announcement, dropped it in the chat here, pressed enter, and it built out this initial section. I think it being a BAA is relevant. About requirements. Let's look at our win themes real quick. I want to take a look at these just to make sure they're nice and clean. We're just cutting edge, not do. And know that this customer wants open source technology. So I'm going to add some of that flavor. The AI might not have pulled that directly out of the content I gave it from the statement of work, but I know that from my customer engagement. So I'm going to make sure that that is built into my Win themes so that the AI has that insight when it goes to generate my first draft. So that's good. Go to the next step. Here's all the content. Awesome. There's my comprehensive outline. Fantastic. Let's go to create. So real time, right? I quite literally started this and I already built one brief draft. We're 45 minutes in from when I personally literally started this process. So not necessarily a canned demo, right? This is live real time. I'm going to let that go ahead and bake. It's probably going to take a few minutes to work through. Fortunately, I already pre-baked a lighter cake in the last 45 minutes. So we're going to switch over to that just so I have something to show you. So kept this one pretty brief. I didn't go into that robust depth, right? I kept all of the defaults on no preference for how much content is created. So there wasn't a whole lot in here, right? I just want you to see if you just take the RFP, just drop it in, and Rogue shreds out what the government has specifically instructed you to provide to them in terms of a response. What you get from the system is, somewhat nascent, right? It's not all that robust. So a little bit of time up front. And as I said several times now, it only took me about 30 minutes to build out that outline. You get a much more rich, a much deeper, a much more robust output from that initial generation, which is going to save you an immense amount of time on the backside. Because if I don't do that upfront work, now I have to do it on this side. So let's say that I've got here, right? I need to do my outlining, right? I want to get to my pink team draft. And so there's definitely ways that we can do that here. A couple of things we can do is if I have insights from my team, right? My technical folks who I have on staff who give me really the best way to do these things. Hey, Jim, we are doing this thing for NOAA. They want natural language processing and knowledge graphs. I'm not an AI expert. How would you best handle user inquiries for a knowledge mesh? Language process, categorizing. So, they might give you something somewhat slim, like we use HubSpot CRM with daily, or actually, let's go with hourly user inquiry exports over open APIs to the knowledge graph form retrieval augmented generation in responses. So that might be something that you get from one of your technical experts. You might not know what any of that means, but what you can do is obviously select that. I would turn on Deep Dive, and then you can hit the expand button to then turn that into much more robust text. Another thing I like to do is okay, so I got one sentence, I turned one sentence into one paragraph. I need this to be broken up a little bit. I want to talk about each one of these things individually. So I'm going to take that one sentence, I'm going to make it a little bit more robust. I'm going to break that up into bullet points. And then I'm going to use those bullet points as stock to then expand out those specific items, right? And so I've taken one sentence of text that has some really dense, sort of deep technical jargon to it. And I've expanded that out into things that I can then expound upon. So leverages HubSpot CRM's robust capabilities. Great. So approach incorporates interface and user experience engineering to provide customer experience. All right, so I can take these things and now, like, I've taken one sentence and now I have a lot more feedstock to work from, so that I don't have to try and interpret what it is my technical lead was trying to tell me, right? And I don't have to go back and forth with them multiple times, so that they can give me the best way to answer that one question, right? And so using what we call the sort of AI power tools right here in the text editor is a really quick way to go from somewhat nascent content, get a little bit of insight from your subject matter experts, and then turn that into robust content that you as a proposal writer can use, right? Text. Okay, so another thing we can do here is maybe what I need to write, I don't necessarily want to go back to my technical experts. I know that there's content on my data shelf that I can leverage for this topic, right? So maybe we'll come down to semantic context and send. So I can use this and say, describe a technical approach to this game. Something like that, right? So something you might do or may have done with, say, a ChatGPT is, like, you're not necessarily an expert in this field. Language models are pretty expert in a lot of different fields. So rather than you having to go and talk to your technical experts for everything that's in the RFP that you don't have technical depth on, you can get pretty far down the road. You can get a pretty good draft of what it is you should write to respond to a specific ask or a specific requirement without having to talk to them, because the AI, the language model, has enough specific knowledge to provide you that insight. Okay, so what you can do, what I suggest, is make your best attempt leveraging the knowledge within the language model and what's in your data shelf. So based off of what's in your data shelf, the AI is going to index that content. So you're not just pulling it out of thin air necessarily, you're also using the content you already have in your repository. So you're reusing that content, and so it's not generic. It's something that subject matter expert probably weighed in on in the past. So rather than you having to go find it and reuse it or bug that SME, you can just build out a draft, right? And then from here, you've got something you can send to that subject matter expert. You have something you can send to your subcontractor teaming partner, right? You can say, hey, here's the requirement that was specified in the RFP. Here is our draft language. Please adjust this or improve it if, as much as you see fit, right? And so rather than them having to generate new content that is potentially somewhat generic in and of itself, right? Because they're not the ones necessarily in here writing your proposal, they can give you a feedback on the content that you sent them, right? So it closes that loop. It accelerates that writing process a lot faster. Sometimes the solicitation comes with multiple documents, instructions to offer separate documents, PWS. How do you slice that into the complaint section? I'll answer that in one second. Is there a step-by-step document explaining the process you were showing? Robert, yes, that's in our documentation. I can show you. Or Aaron can. Okay, so second big tip after use a robust outline and then using the power tools sort of one on top of the other to get to robust content. The third one is leverage the AI and your data repository as your subject matter expertise on call, right? Use that first and then use your actual personnel. And you can specify that. So if you have a proposal in your in your data shelf and you know of it, you can obviously specify that document by hitting this little square button or by just using the @ symbol. It'll pull that up. Now, something I need to note is you'll notice that there's only one document in my available documents. Why is that? Well, I'll show you really quick. I go back out here to my war room and we go to my data shelf. We'll see that I have one document that is selected for reference. That's because I uploaded that document into this war room. When you upload documents into the war room, okay, that document automatically gets selected for reference. Okay, because it is automatically narrowing down the documents that AI is going to index when it is writing its content for this proposal. The AI is going, you gave me specific documents, I'm going to focus on those specific documents, not the rest of the data shelf. And if you have a very large data shelf, this can be rather potent for you. But what that does is it automatically narrows it to just the documents you uploaded. So if you want the AI to index on your entire data shelf, you have to come up here after you've uploaded it and turn off that reference. Okay. So if I go back in here now into that document, I go back into that document. Okay, and I go back to my reference button. Now I have many more documents that I can use in my data shelf. Let's see. One thing I want to show real quick is the compliance matrix. So I showed you where the compliance matrix is outside in the outlining section, and now inside the writing interface, it's still there. Okay. So as I'm trying to get to Pink Team, maybe there were sections that I didn't necessarily want laced in at the outset, laced in during the initial generation process, but now I know I need to answer them, right? And so this is where we can start creating draft content directly off of your data shelf while you're in the writing process. Okay. And that's kind of the next big thing is if you go from the RFP drops to having a Pink Team draft, you create a compliance matrix, which gives you that compliance matrix in the outline. You upload that RFP into the outline generator. You spend a little bit of time building out that initial outline. You spend a little bit of time lacing the compliance items into that initial outline. So you have a robust, a very deep outline to work with. And then after that initial generation, you can use the Power Writing tools, like I showed you initially, to quickly go from maybe some bullet points or some nascent approaches to requirements to robust content for those requirements. Then you can start using the chat as your resident expert, right? Your resident SME, because it has access to not just an incredibly intelligent language model, but also the entire repository of your data shelf, right? And then from that, you can start building off of the compliance matrix items. And because they reference your data shelf and they have a robust language model backing them, you're not just generating generic content. You can generate responses to the compliance matrix items with that background and knowledge. And so that's about all the time we have for today. I want to answer Zare's question real quick. So we'll go back out to the outline generator. When I'm generating an outline or I'm building a compliance matrix, what I can do is I just upload the documents here. Right. And I can upload multiple documents. And then what I want to do is select multiple documents before I generate that, that outline or the compliance matrix. And so if you have a solicitation, right, the SF33, and then you have a PWS that's a separate document, and you have a section L&M that are separate documents as well, you can upload each of those documents and then reference each of those documents separately so that they are all included in that outline and matrix.